Right, let's return to our story about a terror threat to South Africa. Joining us to have an in-depth look at this terror alert and what South Africa's response should be. We're joined now by Willem Els. He is a senior training coordinator at ENACT Programme at the Institute for Security Studies. A very good evening to you, Mr. Els. Thank you so much for speaking to us now. We heard from the minister and the presidency earlier on saying that they've received no information that would point to a credible threat. How should South Africa respond given this alert and lack of verifiable information from how they see it?
Good evening to you. Yes, I think the first thing that we should do is not to panic. We should be calm and we should be analyzing this whole situation in a calm manner. So it is not always the case that your information can be verified. Sometimes the information that comes through is very few and far apart, and that does not mean that there will not be an attack. But an attack like or information like this, I normally tell people that you have to deal with it the same way that you deal with a bomb scare. If you receive a bomb scare, you don't know whether there's going to be a bomb. So what do? You take the necessary precautions, you take the people away, you make sure that everybody is safe without panic. And if the bomb detonates, then it mitigates that. If it does not detonate, then nothing is lost. And in the history in South Africa, we only had one bomb scare that actually turned out to be positive. But we still deal with each and every one as if there is a bomb.
How do you weigh up, Mr. Els? How do you weigh up what resonates? I mean, given the fact that the social calendar is getting back to what would be regarded as a normal post-COVID-19 time, Sandton specifically has a number of social events that are planned around this weekend. How should organizers approach this? Do you listen to the South African government saying at this point, we've got nothing credible that points to a threat, or the US government's alert saying, because of these factors, we believe that there is a group or entities who are interested in exacting violence on South African communities, and we're not really sure where, but the date is this?
Yeah, you should look at it very holistically. On the one hand, we experienced in the past year that our intelligence services were not necessarily really up to the task given to them when we had the insurrection here in South Africa. They missed it and they did not really manage to gather all the information. We don't say that that is the case here, but that is a possibility. So we have to look at the other hand. In South Africa, we have different foreign missions, and every country has got their people that look after the safety of their citizens in this country. They also look at some information, some intelligence. They are declared and they work normally with our intelligence agencies. And there's normally a trust relationship between these countries where they then share this information. We know that several of the foreign missions mentioned that they picked up some information about this. And we also know that if any foreign mission, South Africa, for instance, in Lesotho or in Kenya or in any other country, if we picked up that there's a credible threat against South African citizens there, they will also follow the same route of warning their citizens of something that might happen. So that is the starting point that we have to look at. So from that point of departure point, we will have to actually see that South African government and intelligence services engage with these foreign services, and then we hope that they will be able to share this information and make South Africa safer. We also saw in the past, for instance, if you look at the Westgate attack in Kenya, the information that was credible that came before the attack did not come from the local intelligence services. It was given to them by these foreign services that are also active in that country. So we cannot completely disregard it, but as I said, we should also not go into mode of panic.
All right, so what does South Africa do next in terms of being in a state of readiness, while also at the same time not trying to invoke panic?
Yeah, that is correct. So what normally will happen is that your security services, your police and all the other bodies, they will now have contingency plans that they will put in place. That is the norm. And they will also look at additional precautions at the areas that might be the target areas. So you will see heightened visibility of your police. You will also have your reaction forces that will be on a state of readiness. But also, we know that the intelligence services will go out in full force, and they will also try to verify and to gather further information on this. So they will be prepared. It's the same as you prepare for a soccer match or a rugby match. If you get information that there might be something wrong, they just double up on the security. They search more people. They make sure that there are checks by dogs, etc., and that the venue is safe. So that is not. It is not a rocket science. We have been in those situations many times before. We have been in those situations when we hosted the Soccer World Cup, and South Africa really dealt with that well. So I believe that they will be able to deal with any situation of this nature just as well.
I'd imagine in trying to evaluate the veracity of the threat, just in terms of what would be imminent, one would have to look at what could be the source of such a threat to the country. Would it be our involvement in the fight against terror in Mozambique, or other peacekeeping missions, or even political stance that the country may have taken, or specifically targeting U.S. entities? I mean, we know that the U.S. consulate is not far from Sandton City, which is a place where every weekend there is a huge convergence of members of the public.
You are right. South Africa can deal with that. And also, we see that South Africa is part of the SAMIM contingent of SADC forces that are currently deployed in Mozambique, where they are fighting ISIS. And they are also deployed in the DRC, where there are also some factions of ISIS that they come against. So that can be one of the issues. We cannot always just focus on that side. I think we should look at the whole spectrum of where our threats come from. We also saw in recent days there was a conviction of a far right leader of a far right terrorist group. So we have to really go into this thing with open eyes, and we have to do a very thorough analysis of all the possibilities. Sandton City, as you mentioned, is right across the street from the American consulate, and we know that they will also now go into protection mode of the center. They would like to make sure that their people are safe, and you will not always see all these measures that they will take. All of them are not necessarily visible. But we know that behind the scenes, all the concerned entities will take extra measures in order to try to normalize the situation, but also to make sure that the public is safe when visiting that areas.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us, Willem Els of the ISS, just speaking to us about the terror alert that has been sent out by the U.S. Embassy.